You're listening to Great Love Media.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to The Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast since 2015. Quick order of business here. We are having our old friend John Berger back on the podcast in about a week or so. You've heard him on here before. He's been on our stage a whole bunch of times. He's the author of Datanomics, which is truly, I think, one of the seminal dating books of recent years. And he's back, and he's got a new bestseller. It's called Make Your Move, The New Science of Dating and Why Women Are in Charge. And I got an advanced copy, and it is fascinating and definitely thought-provoking. And best of all, we, The Great Love Debate, are featured in the book. Chapter 1 kicks it off with us. So pre-order your copy now at Amazon and all the rest, so you're going to be prepared to listen when John's episode drops in the next week or two when he does this big press tour. Anyway, I am coming to you today from the lovely studios of Pod Populi in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is sort of a retail podcasting experience, which we opened here, and it's a place where you can learn podcasts or launch a podcast or watch a podcast, and there's people outside the window watching me right now. It's everything you need or want to immerse yourself in this amazing medium. And I'll get into a little more about that, but I just want to say that the weather today here is simply stunning. Blue sky, warm, radiant, vibrant. Do you wish you were here? I think you do, because that does lead into what I want to get in today. So we've skinned this GLD apple about 300 different ways over the last 6+ years, and we spend a lot of time on how people get together and how to get people together. And every once in a while, we do deal with how people break up and why they break up. And generally speaking, the top 2 reasons why people break up are money and infidelity. So couples who are together for a while have to eventually, hopefully, share finances or financial decisions. And that leads to some icky conversations and some dicey discussions. And that leads to the end of the road quite often for those couples. And infidelity, obviously, is a bad one for pretty obvious reasons. So we don't need to get into that too much. I think you know what infidelity is. But what I wanted to get into today is something that I had a really interesting discussion about recently. And I think it's probably the number 3 reason why people break up. And that reason is jealousy. That weather report that I just brought up about how nice it is in Scottsdale, that made you jealous, didn't it? I think it did. Anyway, now I personally have never been a jealous person. I am flattered when somebody hits on the girl I'm dating. I never believe she likes someone better than me. I think it's okay if she has healthy relationships with men, even exes. So I personally don't think about jealousy all that much. On the flip side, someone dating me has to deal with fans, I guess, and the fact that I am friends with many girls, and there's been a lot of beautiful women around for professional purposes in my life. Yes, even on this podcast for a long, long time. And I don't notice it that much. It's sort of white noise to me, but I have to always be aware that my partner might not feel that way or might not know that it's, no big deal. And that, I'm not like most guys where they get all excited and flustered by hot chicks, unless it's the hot chick who is actually with me. And I spent the better part of a decade directing an off-Broadway show with a rotating cast that had a dozen beautiful women. And, that was the theme of the show. It was really about life as a beautiful woman. And there was a dozen of them. But it's kind of like if you worked at Krispy Kreme. After a while, you didn't really care much about donuts anymore. You might want one, but you definitely don't need or want a dozen. So I personally am just not wired that way because I'm so used to it. So I don't check out every waitress, and I'm not fazed by the pretty that much unless it's the pretty who is actually with me. And some people find that hard to believe, but it is what it is. So trust me, I'm not like, oh my God, look at all the girls. And I haven't really been that way for a long time. I remember one time being at the Playboy Mansion, for like the 35th time I'd been there. And I got really, really excited when they brought more shrimp out to the buffet because they had some really good shrimp. And that's what I eventually cared about at the Playboy Mansion. I'm more likely to see a hot girl and I think, I bet she's a pain in the ass. which is also not cool and also not fair. And that's discriminatory. That makes me a hottest, which I probably shouldn't be. You're a hottest, Brian Howie. But it also means someone doesn't need to be jealous with me or around me. And it even comes up on this podcast. It's a podcast. It's audio, but we've had beautiful guests on here, male and female. And we've had extremely handsome dudes on here, like Artem Chingventsev, who's one of the dancers on Dancing with the Stars. He's been on here a couple times, and, a good-looking dude, and the women freak out. And I could see how somebody would be jealous of the reaction he gets. And we've had, let me pick a name out here that won't offend or freak anybody out. Serena Vincent. Maybe you don't remember Serena Vincent on this show because it was a few years back, but Google her. She is one of the most beautiful women you will ever see anywhere. And she's also one of the nicest, most genuine people too, and a new mom. And so the fact that she's nice and genuine drives a lot of women nuts. They want to not like her. And she's so likable that makes them even more mad. And when she walked into our podcast studio, every person notices, every single person, men, women, because she just looks like she's from a different planet. She plays a game with which you are not familiar. You know what that means? And if a guy is talking to her or I am talking to her, the inference must be, he must like her. He must want her. He would choose her over me. No, they wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. And no, I wouldn't. It just doesn't work that way. It's just crazy. And crazy is a very big part of jealousy. And jealousy is, in a big way, crazy. But not entirely. So let's explore this a little bit. Because it is a real thing, and it's a complex thing. And people do want and deserve answers and explanations on it because it's a relevant thing. So for the past week or so, I've been thinking about this, and I want to sort of take a bit of a deep dive on it today. What is it? Why is it? How is it? And most importantly, what to do about it. So one of the perks of being an English major, as I was, that part of being an English major is you study a lot of Shakespeare. And Shakespeare dealt with jealousy in a lot of his plays. And he's the one who even coined the term the green-eyed monster. You know that jealousy is called the green-eyed monster. Because in Othello, Iago says, "Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on." I probably should have done that with my British accent. "It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on." That wasn't good. So jealousy is a big theme and inspiration for not just Shakespeare, but all sorts of prose and music and even paintings. So I get it. Far more eloquent people than me have explored it, but let's take a look at it a bit today because it's such a common source of angst. And I want to see if we can sort of not solve it, but maybe explain it. So to start off, jealousy is yet another one of those things that almost always flows out of our two basic tenets of the great love debate, which, as always, are confidence and communication, or lack thereof. Someone either lacked confidence or someone did a bad job of communicating, and jealousy manifests itself from that. And it manifests itself in many forms. And it can be toxic to a relationship, and it could be destructive to a partnership, but it doesn't necessarily have to be fatal. In some ways, if someone is jealous, that's a good thing. I mean, it means they care. It means they want more of you. It means you triggered something emotionally inside of them. If someone says, "I don't care that my husband goes to 5 bachelor parties a month," well, that person might not be jealous. But that isn't necessarily the best thing for their relationship either. If they don't care, that's not a good thing. So some jealousy is a good thing. I want to be wanted 24/7, and I want to want her 24/7. That's not needy, and that's not really even necessary, but it's the thought that counts, and it's a really nice thought to have about someone. Wanting more, not less, is a good thing. So let's start off with that one, this sort of jealous of time, jealousy when it comes to time. And this could mean someone spends a ton of time with their kids or with their friends or even around their family or on a hobby, doing something else, or even at work. And in some ways, or in a lot of ways, you do have to share your partner, maybe more often than you would like. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, nor is it a bad thing to feel that way or express it. And if you say, "You know what, I know you spend 100 hours a week at the office, and I love that you are driven and, passionate about it, but just to let you know, I hope you want to see me as much as I wish to see you. Or, I know you're with your kids every other weekend, but I love the time we spend together. That's not pushy or needy. It's letting the other person know, I wish I had more time with you. And I wish I had more of you. And maybe you can eventually get comfortable with that and schedules change, but jealousy of time is normal and natural, even if it's tough to deal with. And it shouldn't necessarily end or damage a relationship. A little more complicated type of jealousy is what I call jealous of emotion. Meaning your partner goes to, a more open, deeper, a more vulnerable place with someone else than they do with you. Maybe they laugh a little harder, or they share news a bit quicker, or they go deeper in conversations than whatever you do with her or with him. She has a great day at work, and the first person she calls to share with that is her best friend, or her sister, or even her gay BFF. And it hurts not to be that one they open up to, the one they share with, that first phone call, that inner circle that's just you and them, or it should be in your mind. And maybe they just don't trust you with that information, not to keep it a secret, but to react in a way that they can predict. They're comfortable with the familiar, and they're comfortable knowing the reaction that they will get back from another person. They have their routines and their rituals and their banter and their comfort level. And maybe you'll never get there with them, the same way banter can sometimes be limited even in seemingly happy couples. Not everybody just sort of comfortably, ping-pongs it back and forth across the net in a witty sitcom-y kind of way. Maybe your partner, they won't get every nuance, and maybe they won't finish each other's sentences. And if you're in one of those situations like that, you have to evaluate both where you stand and decide, is it enough for you? If you're thinking when they pick up the phone and you hear them laughing with, their favorite cousin, and you're thinking, why can't I have that? Well, you have to ask that of yourself first. Well, why not? And what's the barrier? Are there reasons that you can control? Are there things that you can change? And is it a conversation worth having? Maybe the one time your partner did share something with you first, it was just bad timing, or you came off as disinterested or distracted, or maybe you simply didn't get the response or give the response that they hoped for or that they expected. And that's nobody's fault, but it's certainly worthy to look at, because it's an awful feeling not to be that person. It's an awful feeling not to be the one in that situation. And it's not a great feeling to not have your partner be the one you want to have an emotional connection with as well. Both sides of that are not great. It just makes everyone feel bad. And speaking of bad, that's another thing. A really bad type of jealousy is what I call jealousy of possession, meaning I must have that one because they want him or her. They want someone else. I don't want him. I just don't want everyone else to have him. Do you understand what that is? You crave his or her attention and devotion, even though you don't really care that much about him or her. That is not only not fair to other people or your partners, it's not even fair to the object of your jealousy, because it's fucking insane. What are you doing? If you don't want this person and you don't want to make this person yours for the right reasons, don't dick them over for the wrong ones. Not everyone needs to like you. You don't need to take what's not really yours and what you don't really want. Find your own. And I've had that happen to me. Somebody didn't really want me, but they didn't want anyone else to have me. So they just sort of pretended they liked me to keep others away. And it was downright mean to everyone involved. It's game playing on a really twisted level. And that kind of reminds me of a little bit of a sidebar, but it's tangential to this. I knew a girl, and as always, if you get offended by me using terms boys and girls to refer to guys and gals or men and women, this might not be the podcast for you. Okay? Sometimes it's boys and girls around here. Anyway, I knew this girl who was dating a really great guy, and they were in a really great relationship, it appeared. And he suddenly started working with another girl who, for some reason, reminded her of the girl her ex-boyfriend cheated on her with her 15 years ago, and it triggered her to dump the guy she was with. It wasn't even about this guy. It had to do with the fact that she wasn't really over that guy, the old guy who was a dick. This new girl in the picture had zero relationship or interest